Welcome to the Private Lending Insider Podcast, where we offer education, expert guidance, and access to reliable private capital, empowering real estate investors to successfully develop affordable and workforce housing. As a result of the education and expert guidance shared on the Private Lending Insider Podcast, real estate investors, developers, and entrepreneurs gain fair access to reliable private capital to fund their profitable investment properties with greater ease, enabling them to earn the income they desire and live the lifestyle they really want. For continuing education and access to private capital, visit chamblissmortgagecapital.com after the podcast. Here's your show host, founder, and CEO of Chambliss Mortgage Capital, Mr. Randy Chambliss, the private money lender expert.
Welcome to today's podcast. This is another episode of the Private Lender Insider Podcast. And the whole purpose is to be able to provide expert guidance, education, and fair access to private money. So investors can purchase properties, rehab them, sell them, or just purchase and hold them to provide affordable and workforce housing. So today I'm super excited. I have a great guest. I think you guys are going to get a lot of value. Let me rephrase that. No thinking. I know for a fact the belief is there that you will get a lot of value from today's training. So listen, I'm excited to have Mr. Ivey Stokes, the founder of myEcon, Inc., with a journey that began in a small town of Georgia and led to creating a business empire. Mr. Stokes' story is resilient, a strong vision, and also financial empowerment. Starting from his first business, what is inside of his dorm room with just $10 to his name, Mr. Stokes built a portfolio of companies helping people generate hundreds of millions of dollars in cash flow. His latest venture is myEcon, the personal financial success company focused on helping everyday people like you and I improve their finances, invest to build passive income, and work towards financial independence without leaving their job. So today, get ready to hear from Mr. Stokes. He's going to discuss his journey from his being a college athlete to a successful entrepreneur, his insights into personal finances, real estate investing using private money, and also principles behind myEcon's mission of achieving financial success for all. Now, listen, I'm not just interviewing Mr. Stokes. Like, I'm a product of the product. I have built my credit with the principles of myEcon. I have paid off debt, my wife and I, with the principles of myEcon. And now, of course, many of you guys know my wife and I have been purchasing, rehabbing investment properties for years. So I'm super excited. Mr. Stokes, can you hear me okay, sir?
I can hear you perfectly. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, listen, I'm excited. Tell us, to start us off, like, where you at today? Like, what's the success you guys having today? And then bring us down to that journey, like where it started from. We're intrigued.
Okay, well, first of all, I just want to say I appreciate you inviting me on your podcast today. I'm so happy to be here. I love talking about making money, entrepreneurship, building businesses, increasing cash flow. And in addition to that, I just want to congratulate you. I met you many years ago and you were just starting out, you and your wife. And I tell you, that to me just makes my heart happy, because anytime I see others succeed, I just love that, and you're just a testament to the fact that hard work, perseverance, just trying to do the right things in life and having a vision and sticking with that vision will get you to success. So, I just want to congratulate you and your wife on that. You've done a fantastic job, and I couldn't be prouder of you. And it's just a great thing to see you having success, following your dreams.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Because that's what it's all about. I've been a business owner now for 40 years, but in the business, of course, we have myEcon, which is a network marketing company, but a wealth creation company. But I've always told all of our associates that the idea is for you to obviously make money in myEcon. Secondly, is for you to gain knowledge about finance and then take that knowledge and go out and follow your dreams and build your own wealth, because, hey, there's no shortage of wealth. So people never have to be, jealous or envious or any of those kind of things. It's unlimited wealth. There's no limit on how much of that we can create. So congratulations on that. And, it's just a pleasure to be here today, to have the opportunity to share with people, some of the great things that we're doing and will continue to do. And, my journey started in a small town in South Georgia, a little small farm community. And I always tell people we didn't have any money, but man, I grew up with 5 brothers, 5 sisters, in a wood frame house with a tin roof. It rained outside, rained inside, but I've never been happier. Today I'm a multimillionaire. I've helped other people become multimillionaires, but I had just as much fun, if not more, in that little small town. And even sometimes now I'll get the itch and I say, man, I just need to go home and just walk around down there and see that place, because I can tell you, it's great to have money, but joy and happiness, those things come from the inside, and if you don't have that, then you don't really have anything at all. And
I agree. Not to cut you off, but you just made me think of something. I heard a mentor of mine make a statement, say happiness is the joy of living. Go ahead, sir.
I'm gonna steal that. It's the joy of living. Yeah, that's why we do it, right? It doesn't do you any good to go out and conquer the world and have no joy of living. I mean, what was the point, right? So yeah, I agree with that mentor. He was a very wise person, whoever it was. So yeah, I'm gonna use that a little bit. But and so that's kind of where it was with me. I tell people I didn't even know that we didn't have money and all that. I didn't know anything about any of that stuff. I learned that after I left home and went to college. I went to college at Georgia Tech, and obviously being in Atlanta, you saw a lot of wealth. And I'm like, man, I didn't know people was doing all this stuff out here, And so I decided that, I wanted to be a millionaire because, I was raised in the home that I was raised in. My father was a very confident person, hardworking man. And, and that's just the way that our parents raised us. And so I figured, well, if other people can make $1 million, I don't see anything wrong with me. I can go be a millionaire too. And, but I didn't know how to do it or what to do. So, but I set my mind that that's what I was going to do, was become a millionaire, not even realizing what that meant. It was just that I knew that it was a good thing. You could live a different lifestyle doing that. And so I set out to do that. I started my first business with $10 in my dorm room in college. I started in the insurance business and right away started making good money in the insurance. Then I moved to investing. And, after some years of doing that, I said, well, I had learned some things, because literally being in the insurance and investment, but it was a great education because I would, sit with 2 or 3 clients a day, and back then we did it old school. You'd be in their house, sitting across the kitchen table. And so you start to realize the obstacles that people faced in their life. And after many years, I realized that number one, everybody wants more cash flow. I mean, that's the bottom line. Everybody wants more cash flow, and that hasn't changed even till today, because if it's a nonprofit, a for-profit corporation, the government, individuals, it doesn't matter. Everybody is trying to get more cash flow. And with that cash flow, they got 2 objectives, The first objective is they want some cash flow to take care of whatever their responsibilities or lifestyle are today. And then they also want to take some of that cash flow and build assets that will generate cash flow down the road. Some people call that retirement, but most of the time people that actually accomplish that don't retire. They just keep on going, So,
that's about right.
Yeah, that's what they do, because they're having fun, right? And they got cash flow coming in. So just learning that about more cash flow and the 2 objectives, really got my mind rolling over the years. And I said, I'm going to build a company that's based upon that. And that's how we end up meeting. I built that company. Over the years, we've helped our associates generate over $1 billion. We've created many millionaires, with many more to come. And I'm having more fun than I ever imagined that I would have, because now I'm seeing that next generation of adults that's coming in, and some of them been around for a while, and they can do our business as well as I can. And so we're getting that wave of great people that's going out there teaching the principles and using these principles every single day. So, it's been a great journey. During that journey, we primarily focus on helping people get that cash flow, and that's where we come together with, your private lending business and real estate investing, because that's a great cash flow generator. So what I'll do is I'll just spend a couple of minutes just talking about the 6 steps. But on number 6, we're going to put in there the power of real estate investing, and being a private, because that's straight up cash flow coming in, Absolutely. So, because because that's where I started. We focused over the years on, helping people, maybe somebody's working a job and it's a dead end job and they just don't like the job or can't make enough money. Or maybe it's a young adult, they don't even have a job yet. Or, somebody's got a job, but they just don't like it. They're making good money and they want more. So what do? Do they go back to school and get another degree? Do they just work hard and hope everything's going to work out? What's the game plan? And so we offer a game plan. But the beauty of this game plan is that it can be tailored and adapted to almost any digital or financial business. So we look at, so you take a typical person, they're working, and you said, okay, how can I get started? Because that's always the question. Where do I start at? What do I do next? Well, start looking at ways to increase your cash flow. Well, one place a person can look is that when they're working a job, every time they get a paycheck, the government has already reached in there and took out a big money. And so we have a strategy that we call minimizing tax withholding. And we show them how to correct that. They change their W-4, that's the name of the form, and they start to get more cash. Typically, an additional $300 to $1,000 a month, depending on how much they make and how much is being taken out. So now they got a new cash flow stream. Well, that's money that can, just that one step, that's money that they can use to start getting into real estate or start to paying off debt, whatever, right?
That's right. I remember when I did that strategy, the HR director looked at me and was like, what is he doing? She had no idea what I was doing. And once that went into effect, I had picked up an extra $225 a week. A paycheck every 2 weeks.
Okay. Every 2 weeks. Extra $450 a month is something you can do something with, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's powerful. So that's our first strategy, and it just works because people can get started. Then the second thing is, is hey, let's go work on the credit. A great credit score is going to save you money in multiple ways. No matter what you do, a great credit score is just good. So it's going to lower your borrowing costs. It's going to give you the ability to pick up perks with, a lot of companies offer perks when you start to buy things if you got great credit, Another thing we do is we show people how to start a digital business, start something, simple, something you like, or find a company that's doing that, a company like ours, and, start your business where your overhead is less than $100 a month.
That part.
Right. So now what you do make is coming back to you rather than going to pay for office space and all those other things, and so that's a great strategy. But now when you have that home-based business, you pick up more business deductions, things like your cell phone, your internet access, things that you're paying for anyway, the cost of operating your personal vehicle, travel. You can start making some of those things tax deductible which lowers your taxes on the money that you make on your job and money that you will make in the business. So now that gives you more cash flow, you know. So we've talked about 3 ways to get more cash flow. You know, number one, we're going to correct that W-4, get more cash. Then we're going to, you know, go out there and build ourselves a 750 plus credit score. That, you know, that's going to get us more cash flow. Then we're going to start taking business deductions, you know. So that's 3 cash flow streams right there. You know, then, you know, if you've got some high interest rate debt, let's get rid of that high interest rate debt.
That part,
you know,
that's right.
low interest rate debt, then no big deal, right? But if it's high, that 21, 22, 28% stuff, you gotta get rid of that. You know, so we want to get out of debt. And you know, and then that's going to bring us to number 5. And number 5 is where you have, you know, really accelerated, you know, and become extremely great at, and that's investing. You know, now when you start talking about investing, you know, the problem most people have when they start investing is they have very little knowledge, you know, and it's important to know that, you know, because some people start investing and they don't know much about investing and they just throw their money away in crazy things, you know, whereas if you just, I don't know much about investing, so I need to get with an organization that knows how to invest. And I need to give them my money and let them manage the money for me and get me a good return. And I can tell you there's not, you know, there's a lot of different investments out there, but it's hard to beat real estate. I mean, bottom line is we just don't have enough housing. I just read something a few weeks ago, and it was talking about the fact that, you know, that's one of the big political things in this country now, the cost of housing. That's right. Well, because there's not enough housing.
That's right. Absolutely.
So prices keep going up, right? So, you know, if you can get with a company that can, you know, lend your money to other people that are investors, or maybe you even want to start, you know, doing some real estate rehab, flip, you know, fix and flip or whatever yourself, that's a great place to start. But to do that, you've got to lay that foundation. You know, some of our leaders in our business, they call that, you got to get your financial household in order to be good at that.
That's right. Absolutely.
You're going to have to get some positive cash flow. You know, the W-4, changing W-4 can do that. Minimizing your taxes can do that. Getting your credit right can help you do that, right?
That's right.
And then that puts you in position to have some positive or extra cash flow at the end of every month over and above what your bills or your lifestyle costs. Now you've got money that you can start putting somewhere and you can start generating. And, you know, I happen to think that probably the lowest risk, you know, most steady return and highest return that you're going to get on that money is going to be real estate. You know, especially when you're doing it the way that you're doing it, because they're not, it's passive.
Right.
They don't have to know about, people don't have to know a lot about investing. All they got to do is get the house in order, get some extra capital, turn it over to, you know, your mortgage capital company. You guys are the people that's actually deploying that money to the end user of it. And you're collecting, you know, you're collecting the return, paying the money back. That's a great situation.
Right. Absolutely.
That's a great situation. Right. Because when you get out there and you're trying to do it all yourself and you don't know much,
right,
that can be disastrous.
Bad things happen. Correct.
Bad things happen.
You made a good point, because at the end of the day, most people, they'll get themselves in a positive cash flow every month, but they have no true investment vehicle to go to. And like you mentioned, you know, with private money lending, it's one, is a social impact that you're making, right? Because most of the time, your real estate investors, whether they are new or whether they experienced, they can't get access to fair capital from the banks, period. Number one, the banks don't want to finance a property that's in distress. They want something that's already in place. Two, the bank not going to allow your business, your LLC, to hold title on it, right? They're going to want your personal income and expenses going out. They're going to base the loan based on you personally. They're going to want those tax returns, right? But in the private money world, we don't have those guidelines because we're not part of the government system. And so,
Absolutely.
yes, we have certain guidelines to protect individuals' money. But if you imagine for a moment, you're cash flowing every single month, you have some discretionary income, and all of a sudden you buy into the vision that you want to help reduce and prevent homelessness in your community. And how you do that? By just simply helping other investors to be able to purchase property, rehab them, redevelop them, or even create a new development of more affordable and workforce housing. And like you mentioned, one, you got some protection. Number one, you have protection of the asset itself. The estate is actually real versus a stock, a bond, and a mutual fund. Not saying something wrong with that. You just want to diversify. So you get the real estate asset to protect your money. Two, you're not lending 100% of the value. So you're only going to do a LTV, a certain LTV. We're going to make sure we protect you. Number three, you're going to be having insurance policy, whether it's title insurance, protect to make sure the ownership is okay, hazards insurance, and even flood insurance. So it just makes it a win-win-win. No tenants, no toilets, just pure cash flow. And every single month, you just get that positive cash flow coming in. So, yeah, I love it.
Hey, I like that part. No tenants, no toilets. I like that part. Yeah. I was telling the today, I said, man, I don't want to have to be in the property management business, and I use this term quite often that wealth building is a team sport. And, if somebody's out there listening today, I would just advise them to, if you want to build wealth, build a team. Hey, team up with people that have experience, expertise, and a good track record doing what you want to do. So if I want to start investing in real estate, it's better for me to get with somebody like yourself that's got experience, a great track record in that, and says, okay, here's my capital, deploy this capital, get me a return. Let's do that for a while, because that's teamwork, that's teamwork. And that's what's going to make it happen. Whereas if you're out there and you're trying to do everything by yourself, it's going to be really, really tough. And then once again, I would say that people have to know where they fit in society. The banks are controlled by the government and institutions. They're not there to help you build wealth. The banks are there to build wealth on your cash flow.
Wait, hold on. I can't let you run past that one. Say that again, sir.
Absolutely. It's major for a person to understand this. Banks are not there to help us as individuals build wealth. That's not their goal. Their goal is to build wealth on our capital and our cash flow. Now, how do we know that? Okay, well, you got $1,000 today. You go down to put it in the bank, they pay you 2%. You might find somebody that might pay you 3 or 4%. But let's look at what happens. You got the $1,000, let's say 3%. You earn $30 for the whole year. You got to pay taxes on the $30. Okay, so now you're down to about $21, $22 net. Well, inflation was 3, 4, 5%. So in buying power, you ended up with less money, real buying power, money at the end of the year than you had at the beginning of the year, because the $1,000 would have bought more on January 1, 2023 than $1,020 would have bought on January 1, 2024.
Right.
That's just a fact. So that's not building wealth. Now, what did the bank do? They took your $1,000, they loaned it out to other people, and they made 8 to 25% on that money. So who are they building the wealth for? They're building the wealth for their stockholders. They're not building the wealth for the bank. I always tell people, yes, I have a bank that I use. But if you look at my bank account, you'll see a few $1,000s in there that I plan on spending in the next 30 to 45 days.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
that's a different mindset right there. I love that.
Absolutely.
Different mindset.
Any money I have more than that money's going into an investment of some kind.
Hold on one second right there. I want the audience to catch that. Like, I want you to really listen to what Mr. Ivey Stokes just said. Here we're talking to a multi-million-dollar earner. But not only that, he's helped multiple people, countless people in his organization to become multi-million-dollar earners. And did you hear what he just said? In his bank account, he only have a couple of $1,000 just to spend in the next 30 days. Everything else is in investments.
Everything else. Because here's the reality. And, I've done seminars all over America talking about this. Because once you understand it, then, you can follow a plan. If I put $1,000 in there and I'm losing money, but they're making money on my money. I always use this example. You put $1,000, in the bank the start of the year. Well, when you come back, you got $1,022 after everything, but the cost of living went up 3%. Your money grew 2%. You short.
That's
now
right.
Compound that over 10 years. And you didn't gain wealth. You got a little more money or a little more capital, but in terms of the cost of living. Now, if you had just taken that money and put it into real estate, and you had just gotten 8%, or maybe you got 9, or maybe you got 10, but even if you had just gotten 8%, now that money, you turn that currency, that cash, into an asset in real estate, or a loan, or whatever, and now it's growing at 8 to 10% a year. So now you're making money, you're building wealth, you're on the right road. All you got to do is keep repeating that process, and you're going to become a millionaire.
That's right. I love that.
The bank is not there to do you a favor. The bank is there to do their stockholders a favor.
Right?
That's just reality. And when
That's right.
see, when we start to, I always say, when you get your thinking right about money and finance in this country, then you can start to grow your finances and become whatever it is you want to be in this country. But until you get that right, it's just not going to happen.
Absolutely. And I remember a scripture you quoted a while back. We was in Atlanta, Georgia at a conference. And you made a statement. You say, listen, I'm going to read you this scripture. He said, the Most High God gave you the power to create wealth. And
absolutely.
When I take that and I look at what King Solomon did, King Solomon didn't pray for wealth, riches, wives. He didn't pray for those. He prayed for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And I always share that the knowledge was the information that you don't know about yet. The understanding is the comprehension of that information. And the wisdom is applying, it's an action word, it's applying what you have learned and understood when you need to apply it. Just like you're giving right now, not only information, but you're giving the understanding behind it. And all people have to do now is just apply what they've learned and understand.
Absolutely. Well, a quick example of that, and I hope this isn't, hope nobody takes this the wrong way, because it's meant just having fun. I always use an example. I said, now go to New York, downtown New York, and ask the young kid, 10, 11-year-old kid, said, where does milk come from? And they look at you like, the store, stupid. So I hope nobody takes that offensive. I'm just having fun, right? But I'm just picturing a really smart kid in New York. They're like, well, everybody knows milk comes from the store, right? Well, when you ask most Americans, where does money come from? The bank, stupid.
Wow.
But it's not. God give us power to gain wealth, and wealth is money.
Right.
And when you get wisdom and understanding of wealth building, let's look at some forms of wealth. Farmers, they grow it. They raise cows, they raise hogs, they raise other commodities. They grow them with sunshine, water, and care, and they sell it and turn it into money, right?
That's right.
I mean, technology people, they create it every day. They create a piece of software that will help somebody provide a service in business less expensively and faster, and they sell it and turn it into money, right?
That's right.
I mean, you do it in the mortgage business. You loan somebody money, they end up with a nice home that they're proud of. They can build their family in it, right? So you turn that loan into some money. So money and wealth is something that we have the ability to create based upon wisdom and understanding, and just going out implementing those things every day to help somebody have a better life. And when you start to realize that, it says, okay, so what can I do that I can start creating wealth and making more money? When you take that thought, the market and the wealth is limitless.
Wow.
It's totally limitless. It's not money is not this thing that has a shortage on it. There's not enough of it. That's not the proper way to think about money, and that's why I was able to take $10, continue to provide service, continue to provide education to people around this country, and turn that into millions of dollars for myself and for other people.
That's right.
And that kind of takes us to number 6 in our 6 steps of, just the 6 strategies that we use to go out and create more cash flow. We talked about correcting the W-4. Everybody that's got a job, just about everybody can do that. We talk about minimizing taxes because you get a low-cost business, and then, improving your credit and paying off debt, and then investing. Well, number 6 on that list is business building. You got your business. Now, what are you going to do in your business? Well, one of the things that we do in our business, the thing that we do in our business, not one of them, is we do financial education.
Which is very, very needed. It's a critical need.
Absolutely. It gives you the power to compete because you understand how all the pieces fit and what's supposed to happen. So, as an example, almost 100 million people in this country have poor credit.
Wow.
Well, they think it's just like, well, I'm just mad because I got poor credit because now I can't buy a house or I can't buy my car. No, it's costing you thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars throughout your life span. Poor credit. You can educate people on credit. You can educate people on real estate. You can educate people on lending. You can educate people, on minimizing their taxes. And that's what we do. We market a membership. We have all of these entities in that membership. And people walk away with a great financial education, take that information and start applying it to whatever business that they want to build for themselves. Now, some of those people are just totally happy to say, you know what, I'm just going to work my job and I'm just going to build this business. And of course, we love them too. But some people are, like yourself, you're very ambitious. You say, well, I can do even more than that because I like this also. Here's another market that I've identified, But the key part of that was that you can get involved with a group of people that financial education and finance is what they do. And if people do that, I mean, my goodness, their lives are going to change because they're no longer walking around blind. They're walking around now, eyes wide open, ears open. When they hear them talking about the market, when they hear the politicians talking, when they hear the bankers, they know what they're talking about. And now they can start to participate in this economy that we have, because I hear people all the time say, America is a democracy. I said, okay, all right, I'm going to go with that for a minute. But I would say America is a capitalistic democracy because the foundation of America is capital.
That's right.
You need some capital to operate in America. You want to start a business, you want to buy a house, you want to buy a car. All those things start with the big C.
That's right.
Do you have some available cash today? And if you don't have capital, you're going to be limited. The person that's walking around with no extra capital to invest, no extra capital that somebody can deploy somewhere to generate something, that person is just going to struggle, and life is going to be a struggle for them their entire life. Now, if you happen to be one of those people that started like I started, where you didn't have any capital, and that's what I just love that market. I didn't have any capital. I started young. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any extra money. I was, I had more month than I had money, right?
Right. I've been there too.
Right, absolutely. So that person says, okay, well, let me get with a company and start using these strategies so I can get to a positive cash flow. Maybe I can make an extra $500 a month or extra $1,000 a month. Maybe I can lower my expenses. Maybe I can, because I fixed my credit, or maybe I can lower my taxes. So now if I get some extra cash flow, I can get some capital. If I get some capital, I can get rich.
That's right.
And that's the way we have to do it. Where some people, they think, well, the bank is there for me. No, they're not. They're not going to give you the loan. They're not there to provide capital to somebody who has none.
That's right.
The bank is there to provide capital to somebody who already has wealth.
So say that one more time, Mr. Stokes. One more. That hit home just now.
Yes, sir. Because the bank is not there to provide capital to the person who has no wealth. I learned that as a young age. I was, because after trying that 2 or 3 times in my 20s, I said, you know what? These jokers ain't never gonna loan me no money. They're not here to help me. The only time the bank is gonna help me is when I don't need their help.
Right. That typically how it goes every time.
That's how
I remember I share this all the time when I had learned the stats and statistics, right? And don't believe Randy, just do your own research, right?
Right.
So that's about $87 trillion that's given to or controlled by private credit or private capital and venture capitalist companies, private equity, I should say, and venture capital. $87 trillion. Now, out of that $87 trillion that they have, about 1.33% of that money is reinvested to businesses that started and ran by people of color and women combined.
Absolutely.
Now, we all know that women makes up the majority of America, and people of color at least make up 13% plus, but yet only 1.33% of that money is given to us to be able to build wealth. Now, here's the kicker with that. When you drive that home a little deeper, the biggest donors to the venture capitalists and private equity firms are public employee pension systems. Public employee pension systems. So everybody, including myself, know a family member that's either a teacher, working in a hospital that's ran by the government, a nurse, janitor, maintenance guy, police officer, firefighter, city worker, etc. And every time they get a paycheck, a portion of their paycheck goes up into this pension system. They have no control of that, right? They giving their money to somebody else, and aggregated that money is going to these large private credit firms, private equity.
Absolutely.
And so the idea is this: well, who's getting the money then? Well,
right.
You probably guessed it. So what are you going to do when you have an opportunity to look at that property that's next door to you in your block, that's distressed, that's not have any living life left in it, that you could go in there and buy it, rehab it, make it a beautiful home, turn around and sell it to somebody at an affordable price. That way they can live in their home safely and affordable. Right. And at the same time, by you developing that development, you're earning what? Income. You either getting capital gains or you're getting a positive cash flow every month. And like Mr. Stokes is saying, if you do this 3, 4, 5 times, right? And then all of a sudden you decide to make a little switch, because my wife and I, we purchased, rehab, and sold probably about 20 different properties over the last 6 years. We built new construction 2-3 from the ground up in solar. We've been a part of many heavy rehabs and new construction, just project management. So we learned some things along the way. Now we had some learning lessons, right? We had a mentor, like Mr. Stokes said. But my point is, now we're in a position that, like Mr. Stokes said, I don't really want to deal with tenants and toilets. I'd rather be on the end of providing the private capital to people that need it most, because the private equity firms and venture capitalist company is not on your side.
Absolutely. You know, to reiterate on what you're talking about there, I learned that same lesson that you're talking about probably 40 plus years ago. I was in the investment business. I started out back in the 80s selling mutual funds. Okay, so we put our money in the mutual funds. Now, who do the mutual funds invest the money with? Every mutual fund company has a money manager. Okay, so they take that money and they deploy it wherever they. And so my perspective back then was just in line with what you just said. This is a rich boys, for lack of a better word, this is a rich boys private piggy bank that they control, but they don't own. It's everybody in town, everybody in the country's money, but they direct where it goes.
That's right.
So much. That's the bottom line. And
right.
So the banking business is based on that. It's not their money, but they control it and they make money off it. And you could walk in the bank with the same idea, the same credentials as somebody else, and that person will get the loan and you won't get the loan.
That's right.
Now, when you start to understand that, then you can say, okay, let me find a different way to win. You know, because what a lot of people do is say, well, we need to get them to change the rules. Well, why would they do that? Ain't nobody gonna make a rule that's inside them.
It don't benefit them. Right. Exactly.
Well, we need to protest. Well, that ain't gonna do no good. They're just gonna do a little bit just to appease you and move on.
That's right.
Here's the move. Get a different plan. I'm an old football player. If you're running the ball and it ain't working, start throwing it.
right. That's simple.
It's just that simple. So
you don't change the goal. You change the strategy. You change the plan.
That changes strategy, and that's all that we're talking about here. And which is one reason I'm so proud of you and your wife, is because you said, okay, we're working, we're taking care of our family, but we're not getting where we want to go. So let's change the strategy. You know, you started off with a financial education. Got a good financial education in myEcon. You know, they gave you the knowledge to get your cash flow in a better position. And then you said, now let me deploy that knowledge and information into something else that I have knowledge of, which was real estate investing and private lending. See, you changed the strategy. So if a person's out there listening today, what they need to do is says, okay, how do I change positions? I don't have time to wait 20, 30, 40, 50 years for the government to change their mind, for the regulators to change their mind, for the bank to be nicer. I need to make a change now before my life is gone.
That's right.
And you can do that with literally pennies on the dollar. You can start a digital home-based business for less than $50 a month. And then you can start implementing these strategies with the help of group coaching, private coaching, and mentorship along the way, and start seeing hundreds, in some cases, thousands of new cash flow coming into your household just by rearranging what you already have. And then that turns into capital, and now you've got something you can work with.
That's right.
And that's the game plan that we've been running. It's only gotten better over the last, 25, 30 plus years. And now with the internet, social media, the speed in which people can get information, I just see it getting much better because, back when you started, and I started even way before that. The only way we got information to people, they had to drive or fly or,
Right.
That was an expensive way to get education.
Right.
Now we can hop on Zoom or we can hop on StreamYard or some other electronic platform, and we can send this information all over the world in a matter of minutes.
That's right.
And we can get, and the repetition of that information is 1,000, maybe 10,000 times faster than it was before. You'd hear it in a room, you go to a hotel, you hear it in a meeting room one time, you go home, you try to remember it, you think about it, but now you can just play it on the video over and over and over. Boom.
That's right.
And now all of a sudden you got some knowledge. So, in closing from my side here, I just want to encourage whomever is out there today that have bigger dreams and bigger aspirations. I just want to encourage, yes, you can succeed financially. Yes, you can become a millionaire, multimillionaire, even a billionaire if that's what your goals are. You can reach your financial goals. And it starts with a good financial education that you can then start getting more cash flow. And then you can turn that into capital, which is what you really need to start going up in the world financially. So, it's been my pleasure, to be here. I just appreciate you bringing me on today.
No, I mean, you dropped some golden nuggets. I memean, you dropped some value. I was already anticipating. I warned everybody at the very beginning, right? So I hope you guys have been taking some copious notes. At the end of the day, I love these type of conversations because I learn from my teachers like you. The more I'm able to connect with you, the more I can be in your environment, the more that I can learn and pass it on, right? Because what a lot of individuals don't realize, we've been talking about investing in real estate, but these same principles help you to even buy that first time home for you and your family. See, when individuals come to my wife and I for traditional home loans, right? We do traditional home loans too. But when they come to us, one of the first things we ask during the consultation is, number one, what's your credit score? Have you pulled it recently? Right. Number two, how much do you have in your bank account saved up for your home? Number three, right. The reason why we're asking for your pay stubs, the reason why we're asking for your W-2s, the reason why we're pulling your credit, because we're trying to find out what your cash flow is, right? If you're in a negative cash flow cycle, then how are you going to pay us back? But if you have yourself in a positive cash flow cycle, then we know, okay, look at the cash flow that's left over. Oh, yeah, they can afford this house, right? And so for my real estate investors, my developers and entrepreneurs that's listening to this podcast, I want you guys to understand that you have to know this knowledge as well. So that way you can pass this on to your potential buyers. Because what good is it if you developing a project to sell, but you can't sell it to nobody because nobody's qualified?
Absolutely.
So this is the financial education Mr. Stokes is mentioning right now is critical, it's needed, it's relevant. I always tell people of a law that I learned, right? Everybody know it. I'm not speaking nothing that you don't know, but I'm just putting it inside of a law, the law of compensation. The law of compensation declares that you get paid based on the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty it is replacing. So there's a huge need for financial literacy, because financial literacy that Mr. Stokes just broke down, he didn't tell you nothing about how to balance a checkbook. That's what most people think financial literacy is. No, when you want to enhance your financial literacy, we talking about, like he mentioned, America is a capitalistic democracy. The pillars of capitalism, the pillars of America rest on capitalism, whether you know it or not. But you have to put yourself in a position to do that. So before we close out, we have a couple of minutes left. I always like to ask my mentors and my speakers and my guests about mindset. You said something earlier, very early on this call, Mr. Stokes, and I typed it in. I wasn't going to let you go by today without revisiting this thing. Okay. You said at the very beginning, you made a decision and decided to be a millionaire. How important is the mindset to make a decision and tell your mind a purpose? Give your mind a purpose. How important the vision and mindset is in your opinion?
I think it's an absolute requirement because we end up doing what our mind tells us to do. And if you don't have a specific thing that you've decided to do, you might do anything. So that's why you see some people, they do this a little bit and they do that a little bit and they do the other thing a little bit. And they look up one day and 20 years have gone by and they haven't really succeeded in anything. They just kind of done a little bit of a lot of things. So you got to make a decision. I'm going intentionally, I'm going to do X. And then tell yourself, I'm going to do X. And what I did for years and years and years, and still today, I have my goals written down. And I like to read my goals every single day. I miss some days, but some days I read them more than once. And then if I have a bad day, I have a little saying that I tell myself. I've already made up my mind. So if I got a bad day, something go wrong, bad week, whatever, I keep telling myself, I already made up my mind because I'm reminding myself, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do this if. No. This is what I'm going to do. That's one thing that I respect so much and am so proud of you and your wife. You guys work together as a team and you made up your mind that you was going to build your own business. Mindset is everything. That's the guiding light. That's the GPS. That's the thing to keep you on the right road.
Wow. Awesome. So, sir, as we close out, how can individuals get continued education from you and your platform?
Well, we have a network of great associates around this country. And so probably the best way for them to do it is to email me at stokesivey51@gmail.com. That's Stokes, my name, Stokes, Ivey 51@gmail.com. And I will direct them to wherever it is. Just send me a quick email. Hey, I want to learn more about this. And I will direct them to one of our great associates. Some of them, and one is really, really great.
Yes, absolutely.
And and he's totally changed his life. And Mr. Keith Tucker in the DMV. And so we'll direct them to them and they'll take good care of them and I'll oversee it and they'll have good success.
Awesome. Well, listen, everyone, some of y'all heard me tell this story before, but a lot of new listeners have been listening. So as I close, I want you to think about this. That was a time there was two little boys, right? It was young, right? It was outside, it was in a winter month, and they both walked on some ice that used to be like a lake, but it was so cold it froze and turned to ice. So all of a sudden, one of the little boys fell into the ice, unfortunately. And then a little boy that was outside the ice was looking at his friend going underneath the water and actually traveling underneath the iceberg. And so he started to panic and started to freak out like many of us would, right, at that time. I know I would. So he turned around, he was looking, trying to find out what to do. He seen a little tree on the side. He ran over to that tree. He grabbed that tree branch. He snatched it off. He ran back with a lot of adrenaline. And then he started beating on the ice. He could see his friend right there. He started carving the ice, right? Carving the ice, building the ice, beating it. And finally the ice broke. And when the ice broke, he finally grabbed his friend, pulled his friend up to safety. And then when the paramedics arrived, firefighters, right, ambulance, one of the people that was there asked the question, asked the question, how in the world did this little scrawny kid rip off that branch to save his friend's life? And there was a wise man that was there, ladies and gentlemen. That wise man said, I could tell you what he did. And they was puzzled. They said, okay, what tell us? He said, because there wasn't anybody there to tell him that he couldn't. And so belief is everything, ladies and gentlemen. Like Mr. Ivey just mentioned, make a decision and decide that you want to gain both financial education, true financial literacy, to understand what to do next. If you don't do it for yourself, I get it, but think about your children. Think about your grandchildren. Think about them for a moment. So with that, Thank you so much, Mr. Stokes, for taking time out your busy schedule. We're going to be signing off. Thank you all for tuning in to the radio show, the Private Lending Insider Podcast. We're going to see you on the next episode. Good night, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Have a good night on Thursday.
That brings today's show to a close. Thank you for listening to the Private Lending Insider Podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, feel free to share it with a friend and subscribe. Please follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Randy the Private Moneylender. For continuing education and access to reliable private capital, visit chamblissmortgagecapital.com. Until next time, choose to have a great day on purpose.